Balbeli, Balbeli Indigenous cause Pipwaktigun and Nondaba, Makwa should Mikanak Indodem. Hello, my name is Belle Bailey. I'm an Algonquin from Pipwaktigun First Nation and I belong to Turtle and Bear Clan. I would like to share with those in attendance today my own land acknowledgement. I am currently on the land of my ancestors, the traditional, unceded, and unsurrendered territory of the Algonquin and Anishinaabe people in the capital of Ottawa on the banks of the Great Kitchissippi River. I would also like to acknowledge all the First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people who have cared for the lands on Turtle Island since time immemorial, and who continue to contribute to the strength of our communities and all communities across our country. Acknowledging traditional Indigenous territories is one way to recognize contemporary and historical Indigenous presence and land rights. It is a small step towards dismantling the continued impacts of colonialism and undoing Indigenous erasure in our everyday lives. We commit to continue to explore and make meaningful contributions to the calls to action that result from the Truth and Reconciliation Commission of Canada. I encourage everyone in attendance to think of the traditional Indigenous territory they are currently standing on, whether they are watching this from. If you do not know what Indigenous territory you are currently residing on, I encourage you to further research it and find out not only the names, but some of the history of these traditional territories. Miigwech, thank you, enjoy.
Thank you, Belle, for that offering today's land acknowledgement. It's great to be here live on Facebook and YouTube for this special week of DWF Live. My name is Nancy Holman, and I'm the Reconciliation Coordinator at the Gord Downie and Cheney Winjack Fund. We are so excited for today's interview with Gerald Auger. As you're tuning in, please post a comment below so we know where you're joining us from. Inspired by Channy's story and Gord's call to a better Canada, the Gord Downie and Cheney Winjack Fund aims to build a cultural understanding and create a path toward reconciliation between Indigenous and non-Indigenous peoples. Our goal is to improve the lives of Indigenous peoples by building awareness, education, and connections between all peoples in Canada. We are broadcasting live every day this week at 10 a.m., 12 p.m., and 2 p.m. Eastern Time as part of Secret Path. Secret Path Week is a national movement commemorating the legacies of Gord Downie and Cheney Winjack, and it takes place annually from October 17th to the 22nd. This is a meaningful week as October 17th and 22nd respectfully marks the dates that Gord Downie and Cheney Winjack joined the spirit world. We call on all people in Canada to use the Secret Path to answer Gord's calls to action. Do something by creating reconciliation and furthering the conversations about the histories of residential schools. We have a jam-packed week planned with powerful speakers and amazing artists. So be sure to check out our website at downiewinjack.ca/DWF Live and register for our events. It's great to see so many classrooms are here with us today. So please continue to use the chat and let us know where you're joining from. And share any thoughts and questions that come up during today's WF Live. Later in the broadcast, we're going to switch over to a Q&A where we will take all your questions, both from our camera classrooms and from the live chat. Today, I have the ultimate pleasure of introducing Gerald Auger. Gerald, please. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm so excited to have you talk about all the amazing work you do. Moten Gerald.
Ahaw, nista pita niga si manto na naskuma minagita kong kapiwi ko siya kay si daski matsu muktiw. Makas yung utaw taski wakun wakumakan agong kaskiti wayesta kaya pi ano kapibig squat ko siya uistuak na naskuma was ko nikite aksie agong kaginigan tita was wakumakan na matsu ga no tum bitrasim snow ko sumno ko japan snow when we saw ano suta kapmuktita askiks no maksuna kas kuhtun gita. So I want to thank and honor you, Sister Nancy, for introducing me, and I'm honored to be a part of this amazing week of Secret Path Week for the Gord Downie Cheney Winjack Fund. And I honor each and every one of you, little ones, young ones that are here today to listen to come to understand the true power and sacredness of who we are as Indigenous people, as four-directional people that I call myself in this day and age. And I honor all my Western brothers and sisters that are sitting in, the teachers, the administrators, the principals, all of you for coming together and opening your minds and your hearts to be able to be a part of this event today. And I spoke in my Woodland Cree language first and foremost because that's the language my creator had blessed me with. And I always need to honor that, and I always honor that part of my human being before I address my fellow human beings in the journey I've been walking on this physical world, and the journey I will continue to walk, walking with the honor and the integrity of my ancestors and who we are as four-directional people. And I acknowledge Creator first, because without Creator there is no life. Without Creator we would cease to exist here. And I honor the traditional territory of my Blackfoot brothers and sisters that I speak to you from on their land, and honor the elders and the ancestors who walked ahead of us into spirit world, who were the stewards of this part of Mother Earth, of Turtle Island. And so I need to always honor that part of all our ancestors on Mother Earth. So I thank you, sister, for introducing me. And I've been asked to share my journey, my story of where I've come in this short time I've been here on Mother Earth. And I'm originally from Northern Alberta, from the Big Stone Cree Nation, and it's also called Wabasca Demeray. My mother was raised in residential school, and she was 2 till she was 17. Dad was in residential school for 1 year, and he ran away and was raised on the land by my grandparents. And Mom was at the Catholic residential school, and there were 2 residential schools in my community. And unfortunately, because of these 2 residential schools and the impact of residential schools, I'm a product of intergenerational impact. And I went through the emotional, the mental, the physical, the sexual abuse as a child growing up as well. And but you know what? In my healing journey of where I'm at now, I always say to the people I address that I thank the Creator for all the emotional, the mental, the physical, the sexual abuse I had to experience, because it gave me the authority to speak to you today on it, but it also gives me the authority, gave myself authority to heal from the trauma that came from that. And so that's a part of it. And I've come to understand that the Creator will give the hardest battles to the strongest soldiers, because if the Creator will bring you to it, the Creator will bring you through it. And but it's been an amazing ride on this journey we call life. And because of what happened, what I experienced as a young child and a young man, because of residential school, I ended up spending my youth not in a good way. I ended up traveling, hitchhiking, and living a life that forced me to make a choice later on in my youth, that it was either 25 years behind bars or 6 feet under, because I was making choices that weren't good for me, and that included a lot of substance abuse and alcohol abuse and what comes along with that, right? So, but it was only when I had to make that choice 8 years after spending my time traveling and hitchhiking around that I had to make that choice. And I decided to change my life around, clean myself up. And it was in 1995, I ended up being a part of this event in Grand Prairie, Alberta, called the 1995 Canada Winter Games. And I was asked to stand on stage with an elder who was doing the opening prayer. First time ever for the Canada Winter Games, they're having an Indigenous component to their ceremonies and to the whole Canada Winter Games. And I stood on stage, did stand with the elder, and all I did was just standing there. A camera came and just hit me, and there was this producer who was channel surfing and looking to cast a young man for this spaghetti western they were shooting in Italy. The next thing I know, I'm in Italy with the late David Bowie and Harvey Keitel. doing my first spaghetti western. The next 20 years of my life went the other way of traveling the world, getting paid to do it, and being treated like a rock star, doing as an actor. And I did that. I've shot film in the U.S., Canada. I went as far as Russia and shot a short film in 2015 that made it to that, and also shot Lost Face here in Calgary. I made it to the Oscars 2019 top 10. And of course, my first feature film was called Gunslinger's Revenge with Harvey Keitel and David Bowie. And but in my youth, like I had said, I went through a lot of. I was lost. I was confused. I was hurt. I felt abandoned because of what I experienced and the impact of residential schools. And but that actually made me who I am today. It forced me to become resilient. It forced me to be able to overcome obstacles and barriers that are put on my path. And being directional, when I say directional, I mean Indigenous, and that is a part of what I need to that I draw from when trials and tribulations come into my life, and that's so. So I'm always grateful and thankful for the Creator and for my language, for my spirituality, for my cultural values and beliefs, because that's who our ancestors are. And to all the young people that are listening in, the elders have told me in the 6 years I spent in the wilderness, healing from my emotional, my mental, my physical, my sexual abuse as a child because of intergenerational impact, made me realize that in order for us as a people to rise above it all, we have to go back to embracing and learning and understanding our language, our cultural and our spiritual values and beliefs, especially ceremonies, who unfortunately have been demonized by these institutions that were commissioned by the federal government to bring upon these residential schools. So, but I just wanted to share that part of my journey of, and I was telling Nancy when I started that I always light smudge when I speak about the Creator that I've come to know and the ancestors that I work for in the work that I do in helping the people as an actor, a writer, producer, director, or working with Canadian Energy Executives Association and helping them understand how to honor the true spirit of the land based on the land-based teachings I've been learning in the last 31 years, to working with the Benevolent Artists National Charity, a group of international artists who come together once a year to give back to raise funds for charity. And they just did an event here a week ago in Calgary and in Edmonton. And here in Calgary, they were raising funds for the Stardale Women's Group, a young group of Indigenous women that were from 12 to 18 years of age, who had gone through trauma, who had gone through exploitation, who had gone through some sort of abuse. And the Stardale Women's Group gives them back their identity, gives them back their understanding of who they are as Indigenous women and as sacred and as powerful beings. And that so, and I'm blessed to have learned to be able to walk with a sister now. Her name is Sass Jordan, that Canada knows her as the Queen of Rock, Queen of Blues, and that I'm honored to be able to walk with my sister in the work that we're doing together as a Western sister and an Indigenous brother, coming together and showing the world that, you know, neither of us are going anywhere in this world, and we have to learn to walk together, to work together, to laugh together, to be as we go on this physical walk. So that, and meeting the other members of Bank has been very inspiring in so many ways for what it is they're wanting to do for the people. And in our ceremonies, we have what we call an oskapiu, and that's a helper that helps prepare the ceremony. I've also been blessed to have an oskapiu from London, England. His name is Ben Clayton, who works as my oskapiu in the ceremonies, because this young man has taken the taking the privilege of learning the culture, learning the ceremonies, learning spirituality, and that because of who he is as a human being of light, and that because I need to show my Western brothers and sisters that we are human beings first and foremost. Well, we are sorry, I mean, we are spiritual beings first and foremost, and we're human second. And that so when it comes to our ceremonies, comes to our culture, comes to our language, and comes to our ancestors, the ancestors had said, we don't see the color of your skin when you come to ceremony. We see what's in your heart. We see your spirit first and foremost. And that's a part of it with this whole global shift that's happening in the world, from the pandemic to everything that's going on with these natural disasters. It's a part of the world turning over, so our children and their children's children can become and live and play in a world filled with love, kindness, and compassion. And that's the beautiful thing about everything that's going on in this world. For those of us that follow spirituality, who've always walked with spirituality and are continuing to walk with spirituality, we understand that everything and everyone is put on your path for a reason, to teach you about you and to teach you about life. So as a storyteller, that's what I'm doing. When I put on my hat as an actor, as a writer, as a producer, or as a director, but I also, when I put on that hat to work with the Canadian Energy Executive Association, all the executives that work in the energy industry, and showing them that, what we do, that we have to learn to understand and honor these four sacred elements of the earth, the wind, the water, the fire. Because if we don't learn to understand and appreciate them and honor them, we're not going to leave anything behind for our children and their children's children. It's been amazing how they've been embracing the culture, the spiritual beliefs, and even sitting and participating in ceremony to understand the spirit of it. So, and I know that as the young people that are listening in, including the teachers and the administrators and all those that work with these young people, I encourage you to tell the young ones that we are the answered prayers of our ancestors. We are the ones they've been waiting for. And that then when you can share with these young ones that be proud of who you are as a four-directional human being, be proud of be proud of your ancestors, be proud of your elders, and everything that mom and dad had put us through because of residential schools. We have to learn to love them, accept them, and embrace them. Because one thing I've learned being a product of intergenerational impact is hurt people will hurt people, and there are learned behaviors that are unhealthy that we pass on to our children and our children's children. I've been blessed to have a son, to be blessed with a son, and he's 31 years old now, and I have a grandson that's 14 and a granddaughter that's going on 4. And my grandson has been sitting with me in ceremonies since he was a little boy, and so he's comfortable with that, and because that's a part of it. I didn't have that growing up, and that so I am. And my son also sits in ceremony, and he will call ceremony as well. And I sit with my Western brothers and sisters. So when the Gord Downey Chani Wenjack Fund talks about reconciliation, he said we have to live it to be able and walk it to show our fellow human being that it is okay to be a part and to walk with us as four-directional people on this in this country we call Canada. So I think if there's any questions, I'm not sure where Nancy is. Is there anything you would want me to elaborate on or focus a little more on, or?
Gerald, no, honestly, it's amazing the work you do and everything that I was listening to. It's just an honor to be here today with you, listening, and all the work you've done and still doing to mentor, and just to appreciate, the appreciation I have for you. And I'm sure a lot of people appreciate what's going on, what you do, and what you do to ensure that we as Indigenous people can bring out to our own people just how much there is out there for us to be on a positive, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you're amazing. That's all I can say is you've done so much great work.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just looking to see if there's any questions out there. If anybody has any questions for Gerald, just, put it in the chat. From Mrs. Grant's grade 8 at Westwood, a comment. We just want to say that we are doing our walk for Windjack today. We're excited to get out there. So that's another thing. Walk for Windjack is happening as we speak right now. So if there's any questions, please don't hesitate to jump in. And maybe we see something. We're going to jump into our first question, I believe. Just let me just check and see. I'd like to invite Nation View Public School to the stream. Okay, we've got a few schools here, Gerald. I saw the word Nathan here. I apologize. But Gerald on here. Okay, here's Nation View Public School, grade 4 to 5. Correct me if I'm wrong. If there's a teacher there that can do that to just ensure that I have the correct school. Go ahead.
I see a ceiling.
Yeah, me too. Let's go to Mrs. Grant's class instead. We might have a question. There we go. We see some people. Yay.
Hey, hi.
Turn the lights on, guys. They want to show you the posters that they've made. So they want to show you. I hope that's okay.
Oh, wow. Oh, I love that. We can do something. I love that.
That's excellent.
Every child matters. Aww. It's beautiful.
We did something.
Walk for Windjack. Aww. It's beautiful.
Yes, they just wanted to show you guys that.
Thank you for that. That's
Thank
great.
you.
This is great. Mrs. Grant's grade 8 at Westwood. Thank you for that. Gerald, again, I want to say thank you so much for all the work you do out there. And, like I said earlier, for mentoring, all our Indigenous youth, our Indigenous peoples throughout our land. I have a question from Sarah Howard. Can you tell us more about your time in the wilderness? What was your daily life like?
Oh, my daily life in the wilderness. I walked away from Hollywood and the work I was doing with Hollywood in 2009. When the elders and the ancestors says you will walk away from that now because you're starting to go down the wrong road and you've learned what you needed to learn from that. And so that's when I walked away and unplugged, and I just went back home to my traditional territory of Woodland Cree in Big Stone, and spent 6 years there working in ceremony, working with the elders, working with the community, working with the school, and understanding about and sharing the land-based teachings that I had learned and that I was continuing to learn. And so I was working at the local band school as well, teaching the young people about the 7 sacred teachings that we had been blessed with by our Creator and the ancestors. And the 7 sacred laws were given to me when I was told to fast for 7 days and 7 nights of no food, no water. And they said, we want to give you something. So when I was told by the elders and the ancestors to go sit on the land for 7 days and 7 nights, no food, no water, I didn't hesitate. Because I loved my son and I loved my grandson. I was only a year old at that time. And I loved my fellow human being. I didn't hesitate to go and sit and fast and do that ceremony. And that was when they gave me the 7 sacred laws. And again, that's why when I light the smudge when I speak, because the knowledge that I share with you doesn't come from me. It comes from Creator. It comes from the ancestors. It comes from the elders. And I always have to honor the spiritual energy that comes with that. So, but that's what my 6 years in the wilderness was. I had to look at my abandonment issues, my trust issues, my anger issues, and why I would always tell friends that I would only be their friend for a year, to the broken relationships that I had. So I would do sweat lodges to night lodges to fasting on out onto the land, to doing pipe ceremonies. And that was really, every day was different because we didn't know what Creator had in store. And I kind of learned it 6 years after that. I'm on a bus that the Creator is driving. I'm just along for the ride. And I just have to pay attention to what's going on in the world. And the commitment I made to my Creator when I came out of my sabbatical in 2016 was 50% I'd given back to the community, and 50% being that artist that I am, and doing that's why I want to honor this man, our brother Gord Downey, for what he did with Secret Path Week, and honoring that part of who we are as four directional people. I honor that man as an artist, as a fellow artist, and for what he did, and especially this young man, Channing Wenjack, the gift he's given, he's left the world in understanding that our children are on loan to us. Our children are sacred. Our children are on loan to us from Creator, and that who we are as Indigenous people, that our language, our culture, our spiritual values and beliefs, our ceremonies were given to us by the Creator, were loaned to us by Creator to honor a part of who we are. So, and that's the beautiful thing of how I come to know the Creator that I know. The Creator works in mysterious ways. That's why the Creator is called the Great Mystery. And the beautiful thing about the resurgence of our language, of our culture, and our spiritual values and beliefs is telling me what the ancestors had said in ceremony. They said there's light coming for humanity. And what I'm to do now is to stand with the most powerful and the most sacred being in this world, being the woman. My late grandmother had told me on her deathbed about this time of where the woman would rise, and I'm to stand with her in her good times and then her bad times. And that they said, us as the red people are going to rise again in this time. And the beautiful thing about what Gord Downey has done, and our little brother Channing Wenjack, of the gift he's left with the world, this is a part of bringing that love, light, unity, and healing to the world, so our children can live in that world filled with love, kindness, and compassion. So it's a beautiful time we're living in right now. So
that's great, Gerald. Wow.
mm-hmm.
Great. So we have another question here for you.
Yeah.
Could you tell us more about your most meaningful Woodland Cree traditions?
My most meaningful Woodland Cree traditions is, there's so many of them, but it's usually when somebody comes to visit, we are to honor them and feed them and do that. And one of the things that when I have people who come to visit me here in my home, one of the traditions I've been told is that I always have to give up the best bed, the best room in the house so I surrender the bed that I sleep into the guest, because that's how I honor them when I have to do that. And it shows, but really I guess the most memorable would be the ceremonies that we've been given, and so that's really, there's so much to, there's not just one. So but really just honoring our fellow human being, and that the manachito, to respect each other, to learn to respect each other, wakasagito, to be able to love each other and learn to walk with love at the same time. So
Tapua, just going back to what you're saying, when somebody comes over and visits, Gerald, you know what it's like, right? You're either cooking, you're making a huge meal for whoever's coming in. There's no questions asked.
Yeah.
Or somebody says, hey, I like that. Your parents take it off the wall and say, here, have it. It's a nice picture. So I can relate to that. That's so awesome.
Well, the beautiful thing about, I've never lost the beautiful thing though about why I speak my language, because I asked Mom, well, where did you learn Cree? And she said, I learned it in residential school. She said, what? What do you mean? And she said, the little ones that were coming from up north, and that all they knew was Cree. So they were the ones who taught me how to speak Cree, she said, right? And so that was amazing when I heard that. That's why today, now I speak my language, because we were raised with that language. And so that was surprising when Mom said that, right? So, But yeah, it's just
That's
like,
beautiful. That is
mhm,
truly beautiful.
mhm.
And likewise for myself, I keep our language strong. It's so important to just,
Mhm.
teach our youth,
Yeah,
right, as
yeah.
much as possible. So, and having language speakers,
Mhm.
knowledge keepers that we're losing, and
Mhm.
ensuring that we try to keep that alive
Mhm.
as we
Yeah.
go
Yeah.
along. So
Yeah.
that's great.
And one of the beautiful things that mom has taught me being in residential school is what it is, how sacred we need to hold our parents, our father. My father went home to Creator in 2006, but I'm still rich for having my mother here. But mom was the one who taught me how to honor our parents because they're not always going to be here. But it was mom when she said, when I was talking to her about her experiences in residential school, she said, when I was 4 and 5 years old, when the kids were being taken home, when the parents would come and take them home for the summer from the residential schools, and the children would say, I'm going to go, my mom and my dad are going to come and get me. Mom said in her little mind's eye at 5 years old, she was saying, what's a mom? Because she never knew her mom. Her mom dropped her and her sister off at the residential school when she was 2, and so she didn't meet her mother until she was about 17. And that's what and she said. For the longest time, I didn't know when these kids would say, "My mom and dad are coming to pick me up," and I was saying to myself, "Well, what's a mom?" And today, mom is one of my biggest supporters, and I always make it a point to call her wherever I'm at. And she doesn't like me flying, so I don't tell her I have to fly somewhere.
That's a story of resilience, Gerald.
Uh,
Resilience.
uh,
Wow.
yeah,
That's great. That's so awesome.
yeah,
Oh, wow.
yeah.
So I have another question here for you. So, what advice do you have for students who want to learn more about residential schools and engage in reconciliation in a meaningful way?
Mhm. Igual buma katawi tapma ta igunung gagi stomach seat and miguti to go sit with any there's survivors in our communities. But I have a Welsh brother who had said to me once, Gerald, I don't look at them as residential school survivors. I look at them as residential school heroes because they went through so much and they still came out of it on the other side, is what he said, right? And I really love how he flipped that. And he says, no, they're residential school heroes because they went through a lot, but they were still able to be here today and survive it all. But for me, it's what I've had to do for myself is I had to understand, I had to study and learn what these residential schools really were. But also, the knowledge, the wisdom comes from those survivors, from those people who've been through residential school. When you can sit with them, because this is more important, human to human, and that's a part of it. Is just take the time to sit with people who know about the residential schools or who have been a part of residential schools, and we as storytellers, inherent storytellers, as Indigenous people, create a drama, create a play, create something that tells a story that's going to force you to learn. And we as Indigenous people are visual learners. And that, so the elders would say, and when I say, I want to know how to do that, is what I would say. The elders, well, do do that. They say, well, then go do it. They say, that's the only way you'll learn, right? So, and that's really just, if you want to learn about residential school, ask people who are either products of it or intergenerational products of it, right? And read it or research it. So trust me, it'll make you understand and appreciate the family you have, and it'll make you appreciate the language we do have. And I always tell my son and my grandson, and he says, my mom and dad weren't allowed to speak the language, weren't allowed to practice ceremony, weren't allowed to practice who we are. You are blessed that you have that ability to do that, the opportunity to do that. So don't lose that opportunity. Learn your language, learn your culture, you learn your spirituality, because our parents didn't have that, but they suffered for us so we could do that. So little things.
Thank you, Gerald. So I think I have a comment here as well.
Mhm.
It says, thinking of how you said, hurt people, is
Mhm.
it always best to forgive?
We have to learn to forgive but we can't forgive until we forgive ourselves. That's what I learned on my healing journey. The sexual abuse that I experienced happened in my across the street from where I was living. And I had to go to the place where the abuse was happening, and I had to put tobacco down. And I said, Gerald, I forgive you for what you've done to yourself, for carrying guilt and shame that you shouldn't have carried, and I forgive you for all the people you've hurt because of the anger, because of the trust, because of the abandonment issues. I forgive you for that because you didn't know what you didn't know. So when I was able to forgive myself, it's easier to forgive others because you understand what forgiveness is because it's in you. Just like you can't love your fellow human being until you learn to love yourself, kasagi sween. And that's a part of it, right? Because you can't speak love until you love yourself. And my dad, God blesses him, Jack O'Shea, he would say, I love myself. And people would make fun of that when he would say that. But now I know why Dad would always say that, I love myself. And that now has power, and there's truth in those words. So yes, it's always because when hurt people, that's a part of these learned behaviors that we pass on. Because if we don't heal from the trauma, we pass on learned behaviors. We don't know that's what we're doing. That's what I had to walk away when I did in 2009. Because I was hurting people that I didn't know that I was because I didn't know any better. But now that I had to look at where those patterns and behaviors are coming from, now I know I had to learn to forgive myself first. And now I can forgive others but we can forgive and we have to just keep living because 5 years from now, 50 years from now, 100 years from now, we're going to be in a different plane. How do you want to live this day, today, and just be grateful and just live in a moment? So, because healing is really all about learning. That's what I've learned for myself. Healing is not a destination, it's a journey. And it's all about learning all over again about yourself, emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually. So
Tapwe. Tapwe. Yeah. Thank you, Gerald, for that. That's a great answer. And everything that you said today even hit me right here. You know what I mean? I can relate to a lot of that you said. So yeah, so I would like to kinaskamotin. Thank you very much. For speaking here today, Gerald. You are amazing. Seriously, great mentor. The work you do, wow. And I see the resilience in your family as you're talking about your mom. Wow, like it just hits me, like I said, in the heart. And I'm so happy I hosted this show today with you. And and it's something that I won't forget anytime soon. So thank you again. And Naskamotin over and over again.
And I'll ask all the little ones who are listening in and who will hear what I'm about to say. When you go home today, go tell your mom, go tell your dad you love them. That's all they need to hear from us sometimes. And that because we just need to learn. If you want to talk about reconciliation as Indigenous peoples, we need to show that love to ourselves, to our parents, to our people. And so I ask all these little ones that are listening in, go home and just tell Mom, I love you. Dad, I love you. And that's going to mean a lot. And so it's those little things that make a big difference in life. And and I'm grateful for my language because the years I've been working with Hollywood, I've had to learn different other native languages to be able to play the role as an actor that I've been asked on. But because I speak my language, it was easier for me to learn other languages. So,
Well, that wraps up our conversation today. And again, I tell you, Gerald, I loved it. It's amazing. So, Samina Kinaskamotin. I'd also like to thank the Youth Ambassador Bell and the classrooms for joining DWF Live today. As I mentioned before, we are broadcasting live every day this week from 10 a.m., 12 p.m., and 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time as part of Secret Path. You can learn about Secret Path Week on our WDF Live WDF live sessions by visiting our website, www.downeywenjack.ca/DWF live. So we have a short survey that will be dropped in the chat now. So please let us know what you thought about today's program and what you'd like to see for future DWF live events. So join us tomorrow. We have more amazing artists like Gerald coming up. So we're here all week, and be sure to tune in on Facebook and YouTube for these broadcasts. If you enjoyed today's broadcast, please feel free to share it with your family and friends, or host a watch party with them even anytime you want. Thank you again, everybody, and thanks for your comments, and a wonderful day. Thank you, everyone. Kinalaska mo tanawa.
Aho, hi.
Hi.